So, welcome to the final keynote. Here on Saturday, we usually have even more of people that are not necessarily EVE players by day come together. So, welcome to everyone here now, and welcome to everyone on the stream. We're streaming this live throughout the universe. So, death is a serious matter. This is actually the first line that was written in the EVE game design document. As Reynir describes it, it was written down, and then everyone went out to get beer. And we, of course, experimented a little bit with this yesterday. Thankfully, nobody died. This beautiful group of men did their best to sort of not get suffocated. And Peter is angelic, so happy. And look at Ole. And I'm just saying, there is Jói. We kept one big guy left, so maybe we'll find a way to get him next year. I actually wanted to call on stage Raggi, who is the man behind the scenes that makes this craziness happen. So please give a huge applause to Raggi.
Next year we find someone smaller and beat the crap out of them.
Raggi brought us chess boxing, Skyward Sphere, Eve of Destruction, and many other crazy things. Thank you, Raggi.
Thank you.
Give me a hug. And of course, thanks to Gunni. It's no small feat to do this with us. I mean, the guy does this professionally as it's living. So going here and fighting 11 guys back to back who are not small people is quite a special thing. So really, thank you, Gunni, for doing this with us. And then pub crawl. Yeah, and I see here people are really trying for something. But I mean, everyone is so happy. I was able to join pub crawl a little bit late last night, and the happiness in the air, it's visceral. But ultimately, though, even if killing and destruction are serious matters in the EVE universe, then with cloning technology and all those advancements, then killing really is just a means of communication. And we felt so strongly about that that we wrote a song about it.
Friend, a long time, yet it seems to have gone by in just a flash. A lot of you shooting me, a lot of me shooting you, and Concord kicking everybody's ass. We have ignited on a massive scale. Scramble those who try to walk away. Nothing says I love you like a kill mail. dancing to the rhythm of our hearts. Killing and dying still stirs up emotions. New Eden is a world where dying is enough. Killing is just a means of communication. Trip than the destination. Hey girl, come fly with us, that's an invitation. Don't be afraid of a little death and exploitation.
Killing, it's just a means of communication.
So, as I said in the opening, then Internet Spaceships is serious business. And of course, we've been going over that in quite extensive detail up until this. And as I promised, we're going to have it a little lighter today. And this was a bit to get us started. And I mean, here are just some pictures from what has been going on so far. The people that haven't been able to follow it, we talked about Valkyrie. The team from Shanghai brought Project Legion on stage. We've had many panels with happy developers, inspiring speeches from Antti at the Eve keynote, touching emotion, lightning enthusiasm for industry, and Internet Spaceships, which we love, and math. Everyone deadly serious with the Internet Spaceship business. Speakers, listeners, look how focused you are. And then we got some fashion tips from Owen. So that was the serious stuff. Like I said, now it's on to more of the shenanigans. Not that there haven't been enough already. We've had some inspiring experiments in cosplay, which I'm always excited about, yeah. Body modifications taken to the extreme. Inspiring things. Friendship. They're both named Pete. People coming together. Yeah, I had some amazing talks at the charity dinner. And of course, looking at the future, and even people from the future looking at the future with different glasses. And the future looking at the future. Isn't this picture the cutest? Isn't this the definition of accessibility? I want to take a moment to thank everyone from CCP that has made this happen. You wouldn't imagine what type of jobs that nobody has any particular training for. Everyone for CCP just jumps into. There are people from all over CCP that make this run. This is mostly run by CCPers who spend their vacation days and every waking moment to prepare and run Fanfest. So please join me in thanking them with a huge applause. And as you have seen, their talents come in many disguises. Here is Svenni, who's a producer by day, but obviously an amazing singer, as you saw at the pub crawl, at the Eve of Destruction, and in the song we just played. And that song, just to say, is written, played, produced, all by CCPers, in a way just doing it in their hobby. So, the second decade, we talked about that a lot last year, and as we've been observing, then the second decade of EVE Online is off to a bang. We've had the biggest battle in the history of gaming, and we have had a moment here to share with you basically what is the first phase of the first year for the EVE universe in its second decade. And we very much like to take these things here to this stage and get your feedback. I mean, we brought this initially and we ended up here, which is as a part of sort of finding where to take it the right place. And ultimately, it should all end with its own cake. I want to remind everyone that there is the time capsule part of the monument, where you can upload the message to the future. And we'll be doing the uploading after Fanfest, so there is still a chance to participate in that. So, speaking of the future, we have been running through the CSM election, and I want to thank the CSM8 for their great work in helping us to continue to evolve what are the sort of various aspects that we get feedback from the CSM on. I want you all to applaud them, and particularly Trevor, who is now saying goodbye after having had every position on the CSM. So please. And now we have CSM 9. I also want to do a shout out to the CPM. I mean, CPM is still in its sort of early phase, and it's maybe not something that people remember now, but we very much hand-picked the first CSM when we started the CSM process back in 2003. So we will continue to work with the CPM on what's the right way to carry that forward, now as we're going through some changes when it comes to mercenary experiences on the ground of EVE Online. But so far, they've been a tremendously good group of people to help us to go through the changes that the team was showing yesterday. And to talk a little bit more about that, I want to invite JC back on stage to maybe tell us a bit what has been going on since we made the announcement.
Thank you. First thing, sorry to throw you under the bus, but council it was 2C. But anyway, we'll look at the deck together. Yeah, it's been incredible. It's been my first Fanfest, completely overwhelming. Physically, I'm going to take probably 3 weeks of vacation after that. But it's
no vacation,
no, I'm kidding. But no, seriously, it was awesome. So many feedback, so much feedback on obviously Project Legion was a big thing yesterday, and already people coming and said, so how are you going to do this? I was like, that's a really good point. Take notes, and then kind of build the right game and stuff. And that was the whole point of showing something quite early, and get feedback, and shape that product together. And hopefully, if it does become something, then it becomes the right thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but I've also had a lot of people come to me asking me questions about what's the future for Dust. And I know you've been releasing a lot of good information on that.
That's right. Yeah, so I had a special message for the Science4 community out there. Lots of feedback, lots of questions that was asked, and there's a few things I want to address since I have the stage. It's a protest, it's very French. And basically there was well, there's a lot of questions, but two main questions I wanted to address. The first one, is development on those 514 stopping? And the answer is no. We're still working on a lot of stuff. Planetary conquest, balancing. There's a lot of work happening. Obviously the firepower may not be, the dev firepower may not be the same, but we are still actively working on making that experience as good as possible. So I just wanted, that was one thing. And the second thing, migration. If, and only if, as I said, that man didn't give me the green light yet. If Project Legion becomes something, do we have migration plans? Yes, we do, and we will. You guys are pretty cool. We won't leave any mercs behind, and you'll be able to keep your identity, your player name, what you have, what's applicable to the new experience, obviously, but we're working on that right now, and I can tell you that yes, you will be able to keep your stuff. So that was the two main things I wanted to tell you. And yeah, that's pretty much it. I can keep talking if you want me to keep talking, but it's like...
No, I want to... Give me the clicker, JC.
Sorry.
So give the man another applause. He's been working really hard on this. See the French flags. They're all here for you, JC.
Very cool.
Oh, look at that.
Oh, wow. Oh, wow. That's awesome. That was for me. Okay, well, that's pretty good. I'm just going to stay here now and smile.
Yeah.
Very cool. Cool. Thank you.
Now, I want to welcome on stage our CMO, who is taking a bit of a style refresh of late. We saw him in a tuxedo yesterday, and now he is wearing something different. David.
Thank you, Hilmar. Thank you. It has been a weekend of unusual attire for me, and this is something that showed up on Wednesday, and I thought I'd use this as an opportunity to tell you guys a little about it, because it reflects a certain something about how we think about Fanfest and the EVE community here. So it's Wednesday, it's the last laps getting ready for Fanfest, a lot of little details going on, and we start to get the word that one of our favorite community members, Ruckdoc, has brought some customized hoodies to us. This is some pretty high quality. I've got my dev name here. This is intended to be a Blood Raiders hoodie, and so, here were a few of them. Saberwing is in the crowd, Hilmar and such, and as I looked at the hoodies when we were all lined up together, there was something that dawned on me. It's the same thing I realized in Shanghai in one of the men's rooms there. One of these things was not like the other. And, a lot of big manly colors and, a bit of white and blue and things like that. And how did I get the pink one? What happened here? So I went back and I thought about when I remembered this dialogue when it first started, and it was back in October. And so I took a look back in the Twitter feed, and I remember, I brought some hoodies to Shanghai for the guys, and then Ruckdoc said he was going to make some more, and okay, now I remember, I want one of these. But things got busy. We had Project Morpheus to announce. There was a lot of stuff happening over the past few months, and I missed a few things on Twitter. One of those things was the first look at what the Blood Raiders hoodie was intended to look like, because when we were all asked what factions do you want, and a couple of them got away, but Blood Raiders was fine. I felt like that was something to be proud of. And here you go, a nice white hoodie with some really gory blood on it. That felt very Blood Raider-y. What I then missed again was a couple days later, oops, it's turning a little pink, David. I hope that's going to be okay. And of course, I am completely oblivious. I'm totally missing this. But the rest of the world is not. And so the comments just start rolling. Oh, well, Was this for Poe Cthulhu, or did you mean Puncturious? And, well, geez, all the way up there, Katrin's wondering what's going on. My friend Nova Knife on the CPM is like, I'll take a pink hoodie. Well, at any rate, the hoodies show up. And of course, I go ahead and put mine on and get in the photo and things like that. And, I guess one thing that is important for everybody to know here, if you don't already, Katrin Puncturious is well known as the Queen of Pink at CCP. I've seen her son dressed in pink, her little infant son, and I hope that goes well over the long haul. And but the main thing I wanted to make sure is hey, if a loyal member of the community is going to bring me a pink hoodie, I'm sorry, Katrin, you can't have it. It's mine, and I am Mr. Pink. And in a lot of ways, right, it is that sort of relationship that is very unique here, I think, that CCP as a developer has with you, our community. It is more of a developer journey together with the audience. It is an amazing thing that we are doing together here. And with, 400 some people at CCP and hundreds of thousands of you playing EVE, certainly there's a dialogue there that makes this game better than it can be when it's just us thinking about it ourselves. And that was a big part of what we intended to address coming into the second decade. When I stood up here last year and we talked about this, we said that we were going to do more player gatherings. We were going to work more with the fans and such. And Andy touched on this a little bit. She mentioned some of the player gatherings. You see Falcon there in his native environment of London in the middle of a crowd of people. But there was a lot more that we did as well. And so in particular, one of the things that we were excited about last year was getting more involved with EVE Vegas and the work that David has done there and getting that thing started. Vegas was a big hit for us last year. You see we had a tremendous view there at the top of the Rio in the party. We had great food and drink and company. Interesting scooter races with Imperial princesses, and even Guard managed to sneak in along with some of the cosplayers there. So after the success of Vegas 2013, it's obvious what we're doing next. We're going back to Vegas, baby, and CCP is going to be there for EVE Vegas 2014. The dates are 17 to 19 October. Tickets are on sale today. So we're going back. And you can get your tickets at evevegas.com. Now, there are other big player gatherings that we've been involved with and want to get more involved with, and one of those last year was EVE Down Under. So, had some conversations with Russell and Dan. Last year we did send CCP Fozzie very earnestly on his own as a sort of a one-man advance guard to Down Under to see how that went. So he had some nice roundtables, keynotes, and things that he did. There was a good bit of trolling involved when there was a call back over Skype to people in Reykjavik, and it was merely a webcam that was turned upside down, but it certainly threw off some of the people there. Great party of sorts, and and there's Fozzie getting his groove on. I mean, what's not to like? And Down Under is growing at a really good clip as well, right? This is the venue that they had last year, over 200 people, but they're thinking bigger and better this year. Brand new facility that they'll be moving into, an even larger place, and we're going to be there with them as well, and a bigger show of support than we were able to do for Down Under last year. EVE Down Under this year, 21st to 23rd of November, and tickets will be on sale in the next couple weeks there, so hope to see you guys there as well. Now, one of the things that we started doing last year as well in our big events here, like at Fanfest and at EVE Vegas, was the Make EVE Real track. This speaker circuit of having scientific luminaries coming here and telling us, are there ways to accelerate bringing the technologies that we see in EVE Online into the real world maybe a little earlier. And so it was great to see Les Johnson back on stage today, physicist, author, and NASA scientist, in a reprise of what he did in Vegas. Thank you for the shout out to Les, and thank you, Les, for coming to Reykjavik. And we will be continuing to do this. As long as you guys feel like this is something that's a fun thing to do with these big events, we are going to continue to bring people like this to our big EVE player gatherings and our big EVE events. So more to come on that, but so far so good, and we're feeling really good about this experiment, and we're getting good feedback from you guys on that. Now, there's another thing we talked about last year as part of the second decade, and that was the second decade collector's edition. Now, I'm not going to stand up here and recite everything that's in it like I did last year, the 190-page book of Into the Second Decade, the Rifter USB hub, the soundtrack. the digital items, the danger game, but there is one item I do need to talk about, which is the CCP mystery code. Now, I told you that every time CCP did something big, those of you who had a mystery code would be getting something for it. And we started that last year with the announcement that mystery code holders were going to get the first exclusive fighter in Valkyrie, the Templar Mark II prototype. They also got the first cybernetic arm that we released in the new cosmetics, the Fanka, and everybody got a shiny new Plex to use as they will as well. So the next big mystery code item coming out is a Rorqual skin. So you've seen we're really happy with how the community, you guys have responded to some of the new ship skins that we've been putting into the game. This is a cosmetic item that you'll be able to apply, much like the other ones, by bringing your ship and the blueprint copy that you get into a facility and manufacturing the new customized look there. This will initially only be available to people who have the mystery code, but ultimately we plan to put things like this in the New Eden store at some point in time. You're not going to be able to get this unless you have a mystery code, or if some mystery code holder manufactures one of these and puts it up on the market, which we have seen going. And this is going to release next week, May 6th, on EVE Online's 11th birthday. So thank you all for your support of the Collector's Edition and the Mystery Code. And remember that if you haven't picked one up yet, we do have some in the store here, and you can also get them with Plex now. We've been able to make that work over the past year, as Hilmar mentioned on Thursday. Thank you. Now, part of what we also love about, obviously, what we are able to do with you guys and what the community does with EVE Online is just these amazing events that happen in game. And we spent a lot of time talking about BTAC-R over the weekend, the memorial video, the Taitnomaki monument. Hilmar just mentioned it and things like that. I mean, this was an amazing thing, right? It without a doubt, it was the greatest battle to ever take place in a computer game. A record that would stand for less than 2 months. Because less than 2 months later, our EVE players in China on the Serenity server had a big battle in the system of 49U6U and completely demolished the records that the Tranquility Group was able to set here. More Titans killed, more supercarriers, a crap load more dreadnoughts, and about 26 trillion ISK in damages compared to the 11 trillion ISK in damages that happened in BTAC-R. Now, I know EVE players are some really competitive sons of bitches. And I am certain that there are people here thinking now, we cannot let this stand. We have to get back out in our ships and take that record back from the Serenity guys. And, I pride myself on being an appropriate agent of this sort of madness. CCP tries really hard not to meddle in the sandbox, and we're not going to do that now. But there is something that I think we can do to help. And in the spirit of getting closer with the community, meeting you guys where you are, we've done a lot of things. We've done player gatherings in your areas. We've added new payment methods that work in different regions. We've added the official support for the Great British Pound and for the Russian ruble as a currency. But now we have a big one that we get to announce. We have the next official language that we are localizing for EVE Online. And that language is... CCPers! So, in addition to being a great world power, France is a tremendous market full of PC gamers. We are super excited to be getting French localization in there, scheduled for the fall. And when that happens, I expect legions of French players to be at your disposal to join in and make the next great record and set the record back on Tranquility where it belongs. Now, there is one last thing that is in the spirit of Fanfest giving that has come up, but I can't take credit for it, and neither can CCP. I suspect this may have happened when Katie Sackhoff, during her message on Thursday, talked about the fact that she could not give everybody here a beer. Well, somebody in the EVE community decided that was exactly what they were going to do. So, everyone at Fanfest has been invited to enjoy a gold beer on behalf of the CEO of Burning Napalm, part of NCDOT, a very active corporation, over 300 members. I think that's a man in the corner there. Their glorious FC Princess, Poison Kevin. And so on behalf of Burning Napalm, we at CCP were happy to help make this happen, but I assure you, they paid for everything. And when you leave the auditorium this evening, all you'll need to do is go down the stairs and your goal will be ready there, courtesy of Burning Napalm, underneath the stairs. And in the spirit of giving, what a beautiful thing. So with that, I'm going to bring Hilmar back out for you to talk a bit more about what's been happening in a few other places, but I hope to see many of you at FanFest next year and at the player events that we're going to be doubling down on and bringing you to eVegas, to Down Under, and probably more. Thanks a bunch, everybody.
Thanks, David. So, basically the American came and recruited the French to go and destroy a record in China. Like... it's kind of out there. So last year, we talked about a project we have started, which is to take the idea of the true stories concept, which have now brought to comics, over to television miniseries. We've been at work, as we talked about that back then, with Baltasar Kormakur and his team. We have no new announcement on that front, other than it still goes on, and we're making good progress. But I want to bring on stage Torfi, who's creative director in the EVE IP development unit, to take us through some of the concrete things that have been happening and what will be rolling out sort of in the upcoming months. So, Torfi.
Hello, everyone. Great to see you. Great Fanfest. So exciting. Lots of fun stuff. The EVE universe is a vast and beautiful universe. Some of us, like me, I've spent 14 years with the EVE universe this year. Next year it's going to be 15 years actually this autumn. And it's been a big part of my adult life. And for a lot of you, I think it's the same thing. It's not just some random thing that you picked up and are slightly engaged with. It's a part of like what we do and part of like our friendships and our social like just network and also this just the new Eden, to me is almost home. Anyway. And I want to bring this to a wider audience, and we want to help you enjoy it more. You enjoy it through EVE Online, you enjoy it through Dust 514, Project Legion, Valkyrie. I'm going to mispronounce it like several times this evening. But we want to make it like more accessible, more like tangible, and more memorable. And also we want to bring it out to a bigger audience. I often see this comment when something amazing happens in the world of EVE, like, oh my God, I love EVE, it's my favorite game I actually don't play. I would love the entire world to play the game, But there are people out there that, for some strange reason, don't have time or the right computer or whatnot to play it. But I want them to experience what we are experiencing as well. New Eden, this universe, 20,000 years in the future, capsuleers roaming the heavens, and the horrible lives of the plebes on the ground. So, we do a lot of things. We in IP development, we do clothes, we do apparel with our line 0.0. Now we started this last year. We put out a number of products. We received a lot of feedback, and our main goal this year is to make it more accessible. So we're putting out more designs simply for things like T-shirts and other more accessible things, but also nicer things like nice sweaters and jackets even. And we're not thinking about these. These are not things with big CCP logos and EVE logos on them. Although, if you want to wear massive CCP logos on your clothes or EVE logos, please do. But this is more for the person wearing it than the person looking at it, actually. And also, we've been getting a lot of feedback about how you like the store, etc. And happy to announce that we're going to start doing American shipping from Masterbrand this year, hopefully this October. So, yeah, because that's. Now, True Stories was a really cool project, I think, at least last year. We built the crowdsourcing website. You submitted our stories. We got a lot of really good stories. I think there was around 760 stories. There were close to 200,000 people that engaged with the site. Around 12,000 actual players logged in, submitted commentary or voted things up and down. And it gave us a great repository of true stories from the first decade. Of course, just after we finished it, amazing stories started happening again. So we're going to have to build a new website or refresh this one to capture those. But we took the topmost story from that website. We brought it to our partner Dark Horse, which I'm really happy to be working with. And we got two of them here with us today. And we developed the comic book, True Stories. It was 64 pages, drawn by 4 different artists, but one writer, Daniel Way, which kind of captured this story and adapted it for the comic book format. And I'm happy to announce that it's coming out in hardcover this June. And it's also available here in the EVE store if you haven't picked it up. For you on the stream at home, sorry, you're not going to be able to smell it or handle it until this June. But it was a really good learning experience, and we also received a lot of good feedback of it. Personally, I thought it was very cool to see characters from our own world, from our own universe, knowing their avatars, knowing their faces, and seeing them represented in the story. Of course, we can have opinions whether that was the correct way to tell the story and whether it was objective or biased, given the fact that the guy that wrote the story and submitted the story is the protagonist of the story and comes out as a badass in the story. It's not the most objective story in the world. But actually, but that was a big part of it, that we as CCP actually took a step back and we totally told Daniel, if you want him to be a complete asshole, go wild. If you want to be a badass, go wild. We're not going to interfere. This is a story written by the players about something that happened to the players. We're going to deliver it back to the players, and we're not picking sides. So I was fairly happy with that, how that turned out. EVE Source, another cool book, came out this year as well. We did a limited edition of Source, and we didn't know how many we should print. Should we print 500, 1,000, 2,000? No. We printed 1,400, and we put them out for order, and we put them on the internet, and we sent out an email, okay, you can now order EVE Source. What happened was that some of you were actually asleep while the email came out and had your refreshing 8-hour sleep. Sadly, the book sold out in 7 hours, leaving a lot of people on the West Coast and in Eurasia kind of missing the boat. We made some efforts to get these books into your hands, and there's actually a few issues left that Dark Horse are going to be selling at Comic-Con and other conventions. But of course, the standard hardcover is available on on the web and available for all that. But that was a good learning experience for us. We actually didn't realize how much you love the world of Eve and the universe of Eve. But it was really exciting finally to bring all these stories and all this material about what happens on the surfaces of the planets of Eve, the story behind the immortals of New Eden, the technology behind it, and the different races and the different factions from all over, like from chronicles, from item descriptions, from short stories, and to bring all of it into this condensed, massive brick of paper, and that can smack people around with. It also had a cool cutaway. So, if you haven't ordered it yet, go to eve.com/source. But what is happening in the world? What is happening in New Eden? Why are we here? Why are all these people so angry with their spaceships? We learned last year that the empires are losing their power, and really frustrating to this guy, because you, the capsuleers, have turned things around. It's not just something that we say. I mean, you hear this all the time. If you talk to designers or learn about the original design of the game, we didn't intend for you to have all this power. You just came like, wasn't it Jock Ewing that said, real power is never giving. Real power is something you take. And that's pretty much what you have done. You took it away from us. And as a result, the empires are just in a complete mess. Now, the power vacuum left by the empires has been filled by the pirate factions. The pirate factions have become stronger during this kind of decline of the empires. You've seen Sancha, of course, plucking up the innocent little victims. He keeps doing his incursions. And the Angel Cartel, Blood Raiders, and Guristas, and Serpentis, all of them are getting stronger and more different, as you saw through the presentation yesterday in the Eve keynote. And even Mordu's Legion are building their own fleet of ships. So these pirates are really, really dangerous. What's worse is that the Guristas have actually acquired the clone technology. They have acquired the technology used to build clone implants. And through their research, they have cracked it. And they have figured out how to do long-range cloning. And more than that, they have figured out how to do cloning without a capsule. And they've installed this technology into fighters, building an army of fighter pilots. And this is a small kind of test projects of them, building an army of fighter pilots that are capable of cloning. What's more than that, they have discovered a way, and this is going to be described better through chronicles and other things, to move a person's consciousness, not just between you and your jump clone, but between you and different types of clones, different types of materials. Even storing a consciousness on a virtuality, which is like a mainframe. So what we have are 4 new states, the 4 different states of consciousness that a single being can move between. An unfortunate protagonist in this story is a young woman called Rán. She, as a child, was raised as an army brat. She lived with her father, who was an engineer, a simulation expert, who worked for the Galante Navy. And she spent most of her life on Navy bases all around New Eden, and didn't have regular computer games or toys. No, she would play with her father's simulators. So from an early age, she was flying sims. She became one of the finest fighter pilots in the Galante Navy. However, due to politics and corruption, she never got promoted. She never got promoted to captain or given her own team or anything like that. And fighter pilots, you know, they are the most inferior type of human that it's ever allowed to control anything that flies in space. I'm sorry, that's how it is. They get shot out of these subcarriers, they get hurled into battle, and people are more looking at the cost of the ship or the ammo that they're using rather than the cost of these people that happen to sit inside them. But Rán simply wouldn't die. However, one fateful day, her ship was destroyed, her body burned in the vacuum of space, but she woke up in a new body. Her consciousness had been stolen. The Guristas had built technology enabling them to essentially hunt down the finest fighter pilots they could find, destroy them, making their superiors think that they had simply been killed, but they captured their consciousnesses and used those as the seeds for this new clone army. It was a program called the Valkyrie within the Guristas. Later, Rán had a little bit of a run-in with the Guristas when she discovered kind of the circumstances of her death, and split away from them, founding her own pirate faction, which are called the Valkyrie. Now, she has a lot of grievances, she has a lot of scores to settle, but she's open for business if there's a job for her. Now, this story will be told in a Dark Horse comic coming out next year, simply titled Eve Valkyrie. So the feedback that we got from publishing True Stories was multiple. You told us you liked, a lot of us told us you liked the story. Many asked us for a story set in the Eve universe, an original story set within the Eve universe. Many asked us for that we wouldn't use multiple artists. People got a little confused who was what when we were switching artists from each chapter. So the story of Rán Kavik will be an original story told with one writer and one artist. It's going to be a digital series. We're going to release it serially. But finally, then we're going to release a kind of a kind-bind book as a hardcover. It's going to come out in 2015, and we're going to tell you more about it at Comic-Con. '15 will be an eventful year. Luckily, through science, we don't have to be afraid of these things, but there will be a solar eclipse in March 20th in 2015 at 9:30 or 9:46 in the morning. It's actually a Friday. And at that moment, during totality, we will reveal our next product. So when we got the feedback from source, you told us that you liked it, it was great, you liked flipping through it, but a lot of us told us you wanted more pics. It was a bit too wordy. You just want pictures, stuff to flip through, stuff to browse through. So, working with Dark Horse, we are proud to announce that in 2015, at totality, we will make available the art of the new Eve universe, the art of New Eden, which will be a and this is a combined art book for all of the 3 different games set in New Eden, brimming with awesome art. And this book will kind of explain the design process behind ships, how they get designed weapons, and all the things that you kind of see in the Eve universe. But it will also feature detailed information about the history of these ships, kind of the role-playing aspects of the ships, who built them, what companies were involved, what engineers, why, etc. But no stats, because they keep changing, and then we have to release the book. And there will be a limited edition, but we will be sure to put on some kind of reinforcement timer to make sure that people of the Azores or whatever don't get a benefit and order all of them and sell them on eBay for ridiculous amounts. And the first versions will be made available at totality. Just set your alarms, and this is UTC. So you keep asking us for stuff. We try to oblige. And another thing you keep asking us for are the models. You want models. You want ships. But which ships? There are like hundreds of ships in Eve. All of them. So the other day we asked you, we published a little blog and asked you, or thread, what you liked, and you told us what ships you would like. Through science, I was able to create this chart. telling us what you like. Now, we actually made ships a while ago, some years ago, but that's not our core skill. We build computer games, we don't build ships. So again, we decided to partner with somebody who knows how to build these things. And we partnered with a company called Quantum Mechanics in LA. They are actually pretty good at building ships. They have worked with other game IPs and do a beautiful detail. You can actually, like, nice, beautiful attention to detail there. And they've worked with a number of, like, famous spaceship intellectual properties that you might recognize, but they also make really nice, like, sculptures of avatars that you can touch. Furthermore, they do serious stuff like these triples, thankfully contained so they don't multiply. So, but we asked ourselves, okay, what would we like Quantum Mechanics to build with us? They're really good partners, what should they build? We don't want triples, because they multiply and they make a mess throughout the spaceship. So, looking at the list, going back again, we decided that the ship that would fit best for this purpose is the Galante Megatron. And well, I mean, we have all the time in the world, but we're starting with the Megatron, and this is actually the updated retribution version. It's received a rehaul recently. It's going to be approximately 10-inch long and hand-painted, beautiful, made by Quantum Mechanics. It's going to be available next year. Can't tell the exact date. No other, like, major celestial events we can tie it to. And but for some people, 10 inches is not enough. So we partnered with another company called Triforce, Project Triforce. They make these amazing game replicas, like life-size, full-size game replicas with tremendous amount of attention to detail and blinking lights. Like the guns they make, they're, like, really heavy, and you can't import them to most countries because customs gives you problems. And they're a really cool bunch of people that know games and know how to build stuff from games. They know science fiction. They're just good partners. For example, they built this protruding fist, which lights up. But for us, when we were thinking, what should we have them build? We decided we did not want protruding fists. We want something big. We want a symbol of power, something massive, something of strength. So we chose the Knicks. Well, actually, you chose it on the number slide I showed. It was, like, just under the Megatron. But we will be building a beautiful 28-inch model of the Knicks, which is like a marvel of Galante engineering. It's going to be huge. It's going to have built-in lighting. It's on this, like, crazy, awesome base. There will be a limited edition, custom, made to order, more details to be posted later, and will be made by Project Triforce. Just to explain the magnitude of this model, we have prepared a diagram. But for our American friends, the sensitive parts have been blurred out. So, be prepared. Prepare your body for all this amazing EVE apparel. Prepare your hard drive and a little space in your bookshelf for the 60-page comic book, 80-page comic book. If you have a beautiful yin-yang table, coffee table, make space for the 200-page art book. And on your desk, make space now for your 10-inch Megatron model. And in your person cave or living room, make space for the 28-inch Knicks. That might require spousal approval. That's it from IP development. Thank you.
Thank you, Torfi. So Torfi heads up evolving the story of the EVE universe forward, as we saw. But the story of CCP continues to evolve. And as I talked about in the opening, we are now very much in a phase, which I have sort of often used that approach to cover the different phases the company has gone through in its long history. And we're now very much in the phase of building universes, where we're basically taking this idea of EVE Online and the universe that EVE Online has created, allowing different product experiences to come into that, rather than what we did before, is that we try to cram every single feature into EVE Online. And that made EVE Online very broad, and there's a lot of sort of unattended elements into EVE, which we can now focus and consolidate, as we saw from some of the EVE keynote, particularly industry. There's a lot of opportunities for focusing these aspects when we have the universe strategy. We actually talked about this before, and we described our universe strategy as something where we would create custom experiences for different devices, and then bring that experience to you on that device. And we have named this sort of strategy EVE Everywhere. And under that idea, we made very bold claims last year about that you will have EVE Mobile in your hand this year, and you don't. That was, of course, very much because VR came about, and we need to focus as a company. We can't do everything to excellence, so we really wanted to catch the lightning that we had in a bottle that caught fire on Fanfest, as Owen talked about so well on Thursday. And now here we have Valkyrie as a result of that. But we've also been sort of evolving this strategy that we think about different products in this sort of coherent universe. And now we think about it much more as EVE United. And the difference we want to highlight there is that instead of going for a very broad adoption, trying to include all platforms and all approaches into it, we want to focus much more. And you certainly see that with Legion, which is on the PC, EVE is on the PC, and Valkyrie is on the PC. And that allows us to think about our universe strategy in a bit of a different way, where we more focus on giving you different experiences, which you might want to play at different times. You might want to play EVE when you have a lot of time ahead. You might want to jump into Valkyrie if you just want to really go and jet fight around and shoot people down. And if you really want to stomp people in the face on the ground, then you can log into Dust. And even to a point where you could do this at the same time. And this approach to thinking of the universe strategy allows for a lot of opportunity for further simplification. And to talk about some of that, I want to welcome on stage Halldór Fannar, our CTO. Halldór.
Bara menn undir, lengra undir. Annars kemur glampi. Kemur ekki glampi? Okay. Thank you. So I'm going to be bringing you some goodies today. Some of you may remember me. I played in the Christmas calendar that we made for EVE this year. I was in the role of Spoon Licker, who is an Icelandic Yule lad, and he's perverted like all of them, and he likes to lick wooden spoons. But what he also does is give people presents, goodies. And so I want to talk about things that we have recently delivered and things that we're about to deliver to you. So I want to start off with the number 11 and the significance of 11 to me. So if I ask you, what do you think about when you see the number 11? Yeah, see, Spinal Tap turning it to 11, that was one thing. And then also EVE Online. EVE Online is turning 11 next week. That's a big milestone, something to celebrate. But yes, what I want to talk about is DirectX 11. So I stood here on stage 2 years ago and showed you a demo with our partner NVIDIA of what we could do in EVE Online using DirectX 11. It received really great response from you, so we started working on it. And so what then happened is in the Rubicon expansion, which was late last year, we actually shipped it in EVE Online. Some of you may not even know. And the reason for that was that the release was extremely smooth. We used a number of new techniques when we deployed it. We tracked the crashes specifically that were being generated from DirectX 11. We had all kinds of mechanisms to monitor the frame rate. We could even turn it off if we wanted to, for all of you. So that contributed to a really smooth release. So we also made the decision to release it without any graphical features, because we just first wanted to get the technology out and make sure it was solid before we started building features on it. We did, however, ship it with one feature, and that one feature is improved performance. What we're seeing is improved performance in all scenarios, or same performance, and then we're also seeing less memory consumption in all cases. And that has actually driven the adoption pretty high. I mean, we're over 60% of computers now that are playing EVE Online are playing on DirectX 11. What's also great about this statistic is that that means that we now have a great business case for actually shipping some fancy new graphics features to you. And there are a few things coming out, but we're going to be announcing those soon. But there is actually another piece I wanted to talk about, which relates to the fact that as we, through the years, work on improving graphics performance, we end up doing optimizations also across the board. I mean, DirectX 11 is really about keeping EVE on the cutting edge of graphics. But we also have to cater to all the variety of hardware that you want to use to play the game on. So what is really interesting is that today you can actually play EVE on a small computer like this one. And Intel has actually been showing EVE playing on these machines here at Fanfest. This is actually the higher end version of these boxes. They're using an i5. This is an Intel i7 with Iris Pro built-in graphics, which is extremely efficient. But what I find interesting when I talk to Intel is they are saying that you guys are showing up and seeing it playing EVE and saying, that's cool, but how many instances of EVE can I run at the same time? And what I wanted to say to that is, it's this kind of pressure that drives us forward, right? And so we did some experiments, and the results are that, you can run EVE at high settings, good performance on a box like this, but you can get 2 clients running when you dial down the graphic settings. And then, we'll only make it better as years pass, so, we'll see where we end up. So Hilmar just spoke about the increased focus that we have in our strategy at CCP. How we now have the entire company focused on the EVE universe. And an example of that is that I am the CTO, but I'm currently deep down in the boiler room. We've established a group called EVE Universe Services, and our mission is to unify the experience across the EVE universe. And what this means currently is that we're building towards shared services for things like chat, mail, and contacts. And the thinking there is that we want to amplify the things that are happening in the EVE universe. By allowing a network effect to be created across all of our games, we expect to see more exciting and emergent gameplay. Now, we firmly believe that exciting opportunities open up with all of our games on the same platform, the PC platform, because you and your friends can explore the different game styles, just like Hilmar walked us through. And then you can keep in contact, and you can collaborate, or you can compete, whatever you want to do there. However, this isn't entirely straightforward, because the situation would essentially become this if we took our 3 games and just sat them next to each other. You have a different identity in each of these games. And you can see the confusion that this creates, and also problems even with finding your friends, because your identity is changing based on which game you're playing. There's also complexity in this. Normally when you want to play a game, you know what game you want to play. But in this scenario, you must first pick the right character to play the game that you want to play. And so, we want to take the different approach. Yes. 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 And so Torvi primed you a little bit about what this is. And it's simply, in this case, you notice that my character, Apophis, is there, and she is dressed up to fight in Valkyrie. And then she takes her suit off and wears her fashionable pod pilot outfit because she's ready to go and play EVE Online to steer her battleship into battle. And then finally, she puts on her mercenary drop suit to shoot somebody in the face. All in a day's work. So, now being able to take your identity across all of our games is actually something that you guys started asking us for as soon as we announced Dust 514. And this is what we want to do. So this also fits with the 4 states of consciousness that Torvi just walked us through. And the thing I still want to remind you is that these pictures were developed to communicate the concept and get feedback. I'm not announcing software that works this way. Our software may end up looking this way, and that's going to be the results of collaborating with you, our players. Now, as I'm thrilled by having now the story arc in the EVE universe that allows us to download the consciousness into these different clone types, then we still have a massive challenge on our back end, which is to actually make this work inside of the server infrastructure and all the game servers that we have. And our back end, which is illustrated by this diagram behind me, has served us really well through the years. It's allowed us to grow with you. As we've had the growth in our player base, as we've added Dust 514, this technology has held up. We had to make some significant modifications when we introduced Dust 514, and those modifications improved the structure, and we learned a lot from it. But I want to point out that actually right now, we're going through a third transformation, which is to upgrade the technology to support the concept that I just introduced. And I'm not going to go off the deep end here to explain how all of that works, but I will still leave you with this thought so you can understand how that changes the picture. For player identity to be unique across the universe, you need to take the concept of player identity and move it into its own service that lives outside of this. Because this picture is a picture of tranquility. But if you want a player identity that works across all test servers, all the different games, it needs to live somewhere else. So really what we're doing is taking these services that I just mentioned, moving them to a new place where they live on their own. And what's really great about that, it lightens the load on tranquility. So this is a way for us also to improve the performance of EVE Online. Actually, that is a great point. These services have no downtime, these new services. That is a requirement. So that's also how we're working ourselves out of the downtime scenario. So yes, great point. So since we've been on the topic of identity and characters in the EVE universe, I actually wanted to share with you results of research that we have been doing around the character creator. So there is just the fact that we have a new generation of players that are growing up and they're used to touch devices. Now, I'm an old man, so they didn't exist when I was starting all of this. And but what has happened recently is that touch has now also made its way into laptops. And we now have touch-enabled laptops like this one. And when we created the character creator, the thinking was always, how can we enable that on touch? How would we do that? And we realized that, well, that requires us to take it to a different device and thus, do all the porting and what's required there. But now with these new touch laptops, we can actually start experimenting with implementing a user interface that works great for touch. Because we were always convinced, and we have been now through our tests, that, for instance, modifying the avatar and working on the sculpting is something that lends itself really well to a touch interface. But what we also knew is that there's a lot of stuff in the interface that's really built around a mouse. So what we've done is we've partnered with Intel and a design firm in Sweden to start creating a user interface for the character creator that works equally well for mouse as for touch. So what I wanted to share with you at this point in time is a video that shows you how this works. You will see circles in the video, and they actually denote the fingertips. And I'll walk us through this. So the 4 modes of interaction are on your left, and you simply click on those with your finger. And now we've selected body modification, which brings up these sliders. And simply by swiping your fingers across, you control how much muscularity and how much weight you want to apply to your character. And once you have a setting you're happy with, then you can click the eye, which reveals all the areas that you can interact with by just touching them. Use pinch to zoom, like in most applications. You click on the eye, brings up all the settings that are relating to the eye. We're going to select, and 2-finger swipe rotates the camera around the character to explore. But then you click on the iris, and then simply by scrolling through the list there, you select the right iris shape that you're interested in, and then you can click on the left to select the color of the iris. And then by simply touching the jawbone there, you can actually extract it and modify it. And you can see how this is far more intuitive than what we have today. And then zoom out with pinch. So there's a lot more exciting. There's a lot more exciting research that we're doing, but I'm not going to share that with you here today. I wanted to show this to you because this is a concrete deliverable that I'm really excited about. Thank you.
Thank you, Halldór. There you go. Now, we have often brought on Saturdays sort of various research and development that we're doing at CCP. Here we see one while back. I'm the fat one. As you saw from Halldór, he was very clear about what is actual concrete delivery, what is sort of high-level design, and what's pure R&D. And as we have been working through our structure and strategy on an ongoing basis, as we have been talking about throughout Fanfest, we've gone from running 2 virtual universes on the same technology platform down to focusing on one, from multiple platforms, focusing on one, and ultimately this is delivery on what we talked about yesterday on focus. And ultimately this should allow us to bring more of these things quicker about that fit within that strategy. So this is all done in the spirit of really delivering to you at a faster pace. As you saw in the EVE keynote, they're going from 2 expansions to 10 releases, and this should all keep the company much leaner and meaner and deliver much better. In a way, we're also going from more complicated things down to simple things. As Halldór was describing, it's complicated to have all this identity. It's much more simple just to have one identity across the games. And I want to be clear when I say that, as we go through simplifying our sort of product portfolio, we're not going to take away that our games are supposed to be hard. We made hardcore games. But that doesn't mean they have to be so complicated. Often there's an element of bad complexity that is born from the fact that we're innovating to such an extent that often when you see the first implementation, you see great ways to factor it down. I think it was a great example what Peter showed at the EVE keynote with manufacturing and industry systems, where he laid out all the sprawling complexity of it, and I get pains in my stomach because I'm responsible for a lot of it, because this was banged together by a ragtag team almost a decade ago, and now when we have such focus on a system like that, we can make a much better implementation of it. And this to us is the best way to keep EVE real going forward. So, in a big Fanfest tradition, we have prepared a little cinematic for you. Last year, we were very much focused on the origin story of EVE. Where did the EVE universe come from? And of course, that was celebrating the end of the first decade. But now we have been presenting the first year of the second decade. And you have been seeing Valkyrie pilots, mercenaries, massive epic spaceships, Stargate building, and all that. And we wanted to sort of capture all of this into the cinematic this year. It's called Prophecy, and let's begin.
From the formless void, there springs an entity more primordial than the elements themselves. In its wake, they will follow a storm.
The prophecy is true. The heretics have constructed the gate.
It must be destroyed.
Commanders, it is the dawn of a new era. Today, we hold the key to new worlds, wealth, and our independence.
Ignition sequence initiated. Stand by for preliminary evacuation.
Once the gate is active, it will change our world forever.
The fleet awaits your command, my lord.
Detecting an Imperial fleet moving in on your location.
We are not aborting the sequence. Prepare for battle.
Clear for movement. Bravo wing, clear for dust off. Clear. Form up on me. Bravo squad, port blank, 5 wide. Roger that, we're on it. All wings in position. Blockade is ready. Multiple bogies incoming, launching fighters. Retaining field is online. Clear the ignition zone now.
Negative. We defend the gate.
They're getting through. Prepare for breach. They're closing in on us. Keep up the pressure.
Ignition complete.
In its wake, they will follow a storm.
Again. Really, again. Okay, yeah. You don't want to hear about like Fanfest 2015 or something. No. I mean, it's kind of cool. Yeah. Okay. Okay, I'll play it again.
themselves. In its wake, they will follow a storm.
The prophecy is true. The heretics have constructed the gate.
It must be destroyed.
Commanders, it is the dawn of a new era. Today, we hold the key to new worlds, wealth, and our independence.
Ignition sequence initiated. Stand by for perimeter evacuation.
Once the gate is active, we'll change our world forever.
The fleet awaits your command, my lord.
Detecting an Imperial fleet moving in on your location.
You're not aborting the sequence. Prepare for battle.
Clear for launch. Bravo wing, clear for dust off. Clear. Form up on me. Bravo squad, port blank, 5 wide. Roger that, we're on it. All wings in position. Blockade is ready. Multiple bogies incoming, launching fighters. Retaining feelers online. Clear the ignition zone now.
Negative. We defend the gate.
They're getting through. Prepare for breach. They're closing in on us. Keep up the pressure.
Ignition complete.
In its wake, they will follow a storm.
They really wanted to destroy that gate. What did they want to do to the gate? What? Yeah. So, before we go to 2015 and destroying, I really want to highlight the upcoming program for the party, especially C-Trip, who came here last year and did an amazing set. It's not to be missed. It's so customized. There's so much care and love put into it. Nobody should go and miss it. But, yeah, absolutely. Woo! And back to destroying things. Destroy the sun. So, like Torvi said, March 20th, there is a solar eclipse. And there were some smart people here in the audience that made us aware of this a while back through the technology of forums. And we booked a Harpa. So next year you can come for Fanfest and see a solar eclipse at the same time. So, this is pretty much the end of it. Thank for an amazing Fanfest so far. Yeah. And if if we could raise up the lights, and we have CCP here in the back, because there are so few seats. Actually, there are some empty up there, but we have CCP here in the back. All the people that make these amazing things, whether it's Fanfest, that trailer, those amazing roadmaps. And could you please stand up for them and show what you think of all this? And could you say, CCP, 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 CCP. Thank you.
There you go.
Okay.